The sun had barely risen over Wisteria Lakes, a glossy, gated, suburban enclave nestled in the outer ring of Atlanta, when the letter arrived. It was crisp, folded with military precision, slid under my door like a warning shot. The embossed HOA logo sat smugly at the top, as if it alone carried the weight of judgment. Dear Ms. Ava Carter, thank you for your application to join the Wisteria Lakes HOA Board. After careful consideration, the board has decided not to move forward with your nomination at this time. We wish you the best in your continued participation in the community. Sincerely, Karen Whitlock, President, Wisteria Lakes HOA. My hands trembled slightly, but not with sadness, with fury. I had lived in Wisteria Lakes for 6 years, paid every due on time, organized fundraisers, helped repair the clubhouse when a storm took out the roof. And yet somehow, I wasn't fit to represent my own neighbors. I knew exactly what this was, and it had Karen stink all over it. Karen Whitlock was Wisteria Lakes royalty, or so she believed. Blonde, Botoxed, and brimming with entitlement, she ran the HOA like her personal fiefdom. She'd installed herself as president 5 years ago and had never been challenged. Not once. She surrounded herself with a tight circle of Stepford clones, white, wealthy, and weaponized with concerns. I was the wrong variable in her perfect algorithm, a black woman with a law degree, confidence, and no tolerance for microaggressions disguised as policy. It wasn't the first time she'd tried to keep me in check. She once flagged my garden as non-compliant because of the pink hydrangeas I planted, not HOA-approved flora, according to her. Another time, she fined me $75 for hanging wind chimes that were too loud. Never mind that her best friend Marlene's porch sounded like a wind symphony in a tornado. But this rejection? This was war. 2 weeks later, I learned through a friend, Rhonda, the only other woman of color on our street, that the vote to deny my board application wasn't a vote at all. Karen had held a closed-door session and decided among her clique. 3 of the 7 board seats were actually vacant. She just didn't want me sitting at the table. She said it might make some of the residents uncomfortable. Rhonda whispered, her voice shaking with disbelief. She said I had strong energy. Strong energy? Translation, I wouldn't bow. That night, I sat in my kitchen, wine glass untouched, as I sketched out my plan. If they wouldn't let me sit at their table, I'd flip it. I wasn't just going to run for the board. I was going to take Karen's throne. The HOA elections were 6 months away, and no one had ever dared challenge Karen. She'd turned apathy into a weapon. Low turnout, vague ballots, disorganized election schedules. Most people barely paid attention, thinking the HOA didn't affect them. They were wrong. Karen's board had passed nearly a dozen silent rules in the past year. No political signage, unless it was hers. Limits on guests at the clubhouse. Read no quinceañeras or black family reunions. And architectural restrictions that incidentally affected only homes not built in her favorite colonial style. So I knocked on every door in Wisteria Lakes. I held coffees, I hosted BBQs, I offered to help clean gutters, babysit, you name it. And at every event, I told the truth. I told them what Karen had done. I told them about the secret meetings, the targeting, the slow, insidious attempt to turn Wisteria into a gated garden of exclusion. At first, people were skeptical, but then came the video. It was a clip taken by a teenage neighbor, Kayla, during one of Karen's infamous walkthroughs. Karen was inspecting Rhonda's lawn and made a comment, not knowing she was being filmed. These types just don't respect the rules. It's cultural. The clip hit Facebook and Nextdoor like wildfire. Karen tried to deny it, claimed it was AI generated, then tried to play the victim. But the damage was done. My phone blew up. People I didn't even know stopped me on morning jogs to say, "I'm with you." A retired Navy vet offered to put up campaign signs. A teenage artist designed a logo for me, Ava for All. When Karen saw my first official banner hanging from my garage in clean black and gold font, she stopped her car, snapped a photo, and the next day I got a fine for improper campaign placement. I framed it. The night of the debate, I wore a red blazer and heels that clicked like hammers across the community center floor. Karen, always in her crisp pastel suits, wore a white one, practically glowing under the fluorescence, like she was trying to appear saintly. She opened with the usual empty phrases. "I believe in preserving the harmony of Wisteria Lakes. We've done so well under current leadership." I followed with a mic drop. "If harmony means silence and exclusion, then I am proud to be dissonant. I believe in transparency, fairness, and a board that reflects the full face of this community." Thunderous applause. Karen tried to keep it together, but her eyes narrowed. She knew the tide had turned. 3 days later, the votes were counted. I won in a landslide. Karen came in fourth, behind a retired bus driver and a local baker. As I walked into the next board meeting as the newly elected HOA President, I caught her in the corner of the room, lips pressed thin, clutching her folder like a life raft. I smiled. Not smug, not arrogant, just ready. I sat at the head of the long oak table in the Wisteria Lakes Community Center, hands clasped, gavel waiting like a promise before me. Karen sat at the far end, no longer in the president's seat, no longer in control, but still pretending to be unbothered. Her face was frozen into that practiced, neighborly smile, the kind that never reached her eyes. The room was packed, standing room only. Residents had shown up in numbers that shocked even the security guard outside. Word had spread that the new HOA president, Ava Carter, was about to change everything, and they wanted to see it happen. I tapped the gavel once. "This meeting is now called to order." And with that, the reckoning began. My first motion was the easiest to pass: transparency. Under Karen, meeting minutes were vague and selectively edited. Financial reports were locked behind a member-only portal no one could access without a personal invite. I introduced Open Ledger, a policy requiring all HOA expenditures, votes, and meeting minutes to be publicly posted within 48 hours, accessible to every resident via email and printed bulletin board at the clubhouse. She blinked. Motion passed 6-1. Karen was the lone vote against. Next up, the Anti-Bias Accountability Clause. Under this rule, all board members and anyone seeking election had to complete a certified anti-bias and cultural sensitivity course. They also had to sign a code of conduct prohibiting discriminatory language, harassment, and retaliatory enforcement of HOA rules. When I announced it, a buzz rippled through the room. Karen stood abruptly. "This is outrageous. This is a witch hunt disguised as reform. You're trying to shame people for having opinions." "No," I said, my voice steel under velvet. "I'm trying to ensure that no one else gets fined for the color of their hydrangeas, or written up for having a Juneteenth barbecue, or followed through the neighborhood because they don't look like they belong." Gasps. Some heads nodded. I raised my hand again. "And for the record, Karen, you don't have to take the course. Only current board members are required." A pause. Then I looked her dead in the eye. So if that's a problem, feel free to resign." She sat down. Motion passed unanimously. But the part that truly burned the rot out of the roots, the audit. I'd pulled records in secret before the election, just enough to raise red flags. Now I motioned to bring in an independent third party to conduct a full audit of HOA finances from the last 5 years. Contracts, kickbacks, fines, vendor deals. Karen's knuckles whitened around your pen. "I find this highly invasive," she snapped. "I managed the books for years, flawlessly." "Then the audit will confirm that," I said coolly. She didn't respond, because we both knew it wouldn't. The next 3 months were chaos, but the kind of chaos that clears the ground for better things. The audit uncovered nearly $70,000 in unapproved expenses. Karen had funneled HOA money into luxury landscaping for her own property. She'd also funneled funds into a security project that installed private cameras pointed directly at certain homes, black and brown ones. The fallout was immediate. The local news picked it up after someone leaked the audit report anonymously. Karen tried to play the victim, crying in front of reporters, saying she was being targeted for being traditional. But the receipts didn't lie. At the next emergency HOA meeting, I announced the board's unanimous vote: Karen Whitlock was permanently barred from holding any HOA position again. Her privileges, including voting on special measures, access to exclusive HOA-sponsored events, and use of the clubhouse, were revoked. You could hear a pin drop. Karen stood, nostrils flared, but didn't speak. She simply gathered her things, and for the first time since I'd moved into Wisteria Lakes, Karen left a room quietly. But I wasn't done yet. I created a new initiative called Neighbors First, a rotating resident council with elected representatives from every street in the neighborhood. They'd have input on rules, budgets, and enforcement before any final board votes. The goal? Dismantle the old gatekeeping system entirely. I hosted community festivals with cultural inclusive themes: Diwali, Kwanzaa, Eid, Juneteenth. The HOA even paid for the decorations. 6 months later, as spring bloomed across the neighborhood, I sat on my porch sipping tea. A little girl walked by, holding a kite shaped like a butterfly, her mother waving hello as they passed. Rhonda stopped by with her dog, tossing me a smile. "You really did it, Ava." "We did it," I said, "together." She laughed. "Karen's house is on the market, you know." I raised a brow. "Moving out?" "Apparently, she's going to somewhere with values." I smirked. "Good. I hope she finds them." Wisteria Lakes is still a gated community. The houses are still painted in 3 shades of beige. The sidewalks still sparkle after every rain. But now, we're something more. We're honest. We're diverse. We're fair. And as for me, I'm still president. But now, people call me something else, too. Neighbor.